So thank you so much, Wes, for giving your time today
Sure.
and accepting my request for this interview. To the audience, Wes and I know each other for about 3 years. We work in Advent Health. Wes is a UX manager there. Wes manages a team of graphic designer, UX designer, researcher for consumer application as well as our internal application. One other thing that I reach out to Wes about is to mentor me how he does one-on-one and team meeting. So with that, I will request Wes to share about yourself, who Wes is, and what inspire you, what aspire you for the audience.
All right. It's been great working with you too, Vinny. I've learned a lot from you as well. I think your communication style is awesome. I see what you do with the Scrum Masters that you work with and also the delivery folks. And it's so meaningful to the company, and I appreciate everything that you do. We couldn't achieve what we achieve without the work of your team, and that success is reflected on you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So where do I come from? I guess if you think all the way back to like when I was in grade school, primary school, that kind of thing, I always kind of resonated with art. I have hanging in my house a illustration cartoon drawing that was done whenever I was in kindergarten. This drawing, coloring that I did in kindergarten was in the Maitland Art Festival, and I won an award. I got recognized in that art show, and that was unique. Not everyone was recognized.
Elementary school, right?
Yeah, in elementary school and like kindergarten, right? And my dad was excited, and he mounted that thing on a piece of wood. My father was a construction worker. He worked very hard all of his life. He always encouraged us to follow something that we had passion for. Mm-hmm. And so he was excited by that, and he did that. And I did all kinds of fun things with that piece of art that he did because I didn't think it was meaningful at the time. I'm so thankful that I saved it, but because I look back at it as a moment that kind of inspired me to move forward. Kind of fast forward to high school, and my dad insisted, maybe it was middle school, my dad insisted take typing classes. Now this was before everyone was typing on the computer, and I'm like, Dad, what do I need typing classes for? And he's like, I don't want you to do what I do. Although he was a craftsman, I think he was an artist himself, the work that he did. But he didn't, it was hard on his body, physically, it was very demanding. The wages for that industry are not that great. So he encouraged me and my sisters to try to achieve more. And it was great because typing, we all do now. And in middle school, we also I got an introduction to the first Apple computer, and it had illustration software on it, and there were things that you could do there that was amazing. And so that kind of introduced me to the opportunities that you can do with a computer and different things that you can do there. I continued with art throughout high school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure. So I kind of took a gap year. I worked 2 jobs. I, for a very long time, worked in retail. I helped set up one of the first retail stores here in Central Florida. And
Which did you set up your own details?
no, I helped set it up. It was the first.
Okay,
first Walmart.
I see what you're saying.
First Walmart in Central Florida, and so that was kind of a cool experience. And I was, due to my drive there, I didn't just look at it and probably because of influence from my father taking his work so seriously, and I worked with him over summers and those kind of things. I took my job very seriously. I didn't just kind of show up. I did a lot of things at Walmart. There were moments where I saw opportunities to improve the way we were doing things, and there were things that got adopted throughout the entire organization while I was in college. That was because of the things that I learned while I was working there. I was fortunate that I had a store manager that kind of gave me an opportunity to do different things, and he showed me a leadership style of empowering the people around you. And I didn't realize at the time that that was something that I had learned. So that was a potential path. I could stick with retail.
Right.
And while I was working 2 jobs between a gap year of college, I didn't even know if I was going to go to college. I started reflecting on how difficult that was, working 2 jobs, not for a lot of income. And I thought, if I had $10 million at the time,
Okay.
10 million is still a lot, but if I had $10 million, what would I do with my life?
Okay.
And I reflected back on the things that I enjoyed, and it was art. If I could make a living doing art, I would love to do that. And I had done a piece that was another piece later in high school, a few pieces that I had won awards at the Winter Park Art Festival. I had people offer to buy my artwork. So that trajectory could have been there. I think it would have been an exciting road. It would have been very difficult. I think, you hear the starving artist. I think that's a very real statement sometimes. And so I looked at what could I do that would involve art but didn't involve self-sustaining fine art. And advertising was a field that I was very interested in. So I thought, okay, a lot of my artwork is has subtext to it and that kind of thing. So maybe if I can do that with advertising, which advertising does motivate a call to action, get people to do things, spend their money, donate, volunteer, whatever that is. And so I thought at some point I'd love to own an ad agency. I would run that ad agency. I just was very confident in entering into my career. But that was a goal that I had. Okay. And so through college, all of the courses I took were related to advertising, public relations, communications, those kind of things. And I was fortunate that I had someone that was my best friend in college. He was also my roommate. He ended up being my best man at my wedding. He did pre-press artwork. And so pre-press is like when you're doing print. This is this is like pre-internet kind of thing. And so you're doing print, you have to prepare the files a certain way. And I asked him, I said, hey, Mike, can you bring me your work home? I'd love to do some of it. And he's like, sure. So he'd bring it home and I would mess around with it, or to our apartment. And I'd mess around with it. And he'd be like, that looks great. It'll never print, right? Like, you can't print that. It isn't done right. And he showed me the techniques that you needed to do that. And so I learned a lot from Mike on how to use systems properly and apply them. I didn't really know how much I was learning from him until I could apply it in a working environment. And so I started applying for jobs near the end of college, and I got an interview with Walmart's corporate headquarters, and that was to be a art director there. And
Directly art director.
Directly out of school, yeah. And so it was exciting. I was on a team that was called Special Projects. And that Special Projects did like the jewelry brochures, all the internal collateral for the company, also pharmacy and shoes. Those are special departments. So all the promotional material for them I worked on. I also did like local advertisements and stuff like that. And the first advertisement that I did was the Arkansas Razorbacks. Walmart's headquarters is in Bentonville, Arkansas. They had gotten into the Final Four. And they said, hey, make an ad. We're going to put it in the newspaper. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I did that. The next one was they came to me and said, hey, we've got our shareholders meeting coming up. The shareholders meeting has like 60,000 people that come to this thing. And they're like, we need a brand for it. We'd like for you to give it a shot. Because Mrs. Walton Helen Walton was not excited by any of the materials that had been submitted before I had started. I'm like, sure. So I came up with something that had people in it. I knew the culture of the company. I'd been there for a long time, and really made it about the people. And it clicked for her. She accepted that. Said, yeah, let's do that. And it was really an incredible second project, real project that I did. People were in t-shirts, keychains, they had ties, everything. Giant PowerPoints at Bud Walton Stadium, which is the basketball stadium there.
Right.
So that was really a cool opportunity to get my work in front of a lot of people, and I think it helped me with confidence. I remember before I started the job and I was like loaded up a truck with all the stuff from my apartment, and I was talking to my buddy Mike, who had been doing this kind of stuff, not advertising, but really preparing stuff. I'm like, man, major imposter syndrome. I'm like, I do not know what I'm doing. Like, I'm going up here to get this like real job, and he's like, man, you know how to do this stuff. And it turned out that they were pivoting to technology at the time, and not many people knew how to use the software systems that we were using.
Right.
I did. And so I started doing lunch and learns and sharing the knowledge that I had with people, which really helped me get confidence in what I did. And I think it helped me all along the way, because now the work that I do, I don't often get intimidated by it. I often will just, take it on, look at it for what it is, and what do we need, what are our goals, what do we need to accomplish, and move forward from there. I try to share that with my team. So as I've grown teams and we've taken on different projects, I try to encourage them to understand that, like, yes, we will stumble and trip. There will be things that we won't get right necessarily the first time, but there are things we can do to help avoid that. And but we can overcome those obstacles. That job at Walmart, though, this transitions into how did I get into technology and UX is we were sitting there were four of us on special projects, and our manager said, hey, has anyone heard of this thing called the internet? And everybody else on the team was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to stick with print. I want to do that. And I said, oh, I'll do it.
That's always happened, right?
Yeah.
From radio to TV.
Yeah.
And then TV to internet news, and then in your case, the print. I remember the print to digital.
Yeah.
People was not sure how big this can go, and print was already stabilized at the time, and was based on where you are. You have certain reputation in that industry.
Yeah, and change is something that it can be difficult for folks too, and uncertainty. I mean, but you look at the .com boom and what happened there, and look at the interesting things that just happened with the Super Bowl and cryptocurrency and all of the ads there. It'd be interesting to see what happens as we move forward with that. But so I worked on Walmart's first website. It really was not a shopping cart. We didn't sell things. We put some of the promotional stuff on there, but I could do anything I wanted. It was like wild, wild west out there. We didn't have analytics. There was
What year was
nobody.
that?
Oh man, probably 96,
Okay.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah. So 95, 96. So, but yeah, I was there for a little while. I built a nice portfolio with all of the work I did, and decided to come back to Central Florida. That was where my family is. My wife's family is here in Florida. We met here at UCF, Go Knights. So this is home. Central Florida is home. And it was nice to come back here. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. And someone that I worked with that worked in at the time, Walmart's had an IT group inside the stores. I don't know if they still do, but the person that I was friends with, he ran a bulletin board, and someone had posted to the bulletin board that they were looking for someone in web design and creative services, and he reached out to me and said, hey, I think this is what you said you do now. And I'm like, sure. And so I worked for that company, and we did designs for local companies. We were hosted. So
you was in Walmart, moved to the IT digital part, and then this position was in Walmart too?
We were still in marketing at Walmart. It wasn't.
But
It wasn't
right,
technical.
websites.
Yeah, I mean, we had an IT guy in our marketing group that was doing running the website, but it wasn't a full like IT. We had a whole IT branch, but they weren't quite involved in the internet piece yet.
So this bulletin board was also within the
No,
Walmart.
this was just something that my buddy ran. It was just a thing that
outside Walmart.
He lives over in Christmas here. And
I see. Okay.
He just loved tech and ran bulletin boards and had new people all over the country that was pre-internet communication, right? And so there were postings that people would list jobs and stuff there, but who knew to find them there at that time? And so, he told me about this job, and it was right. I think I'd been back for like a month maybe and started that job, and it was at a different company. It was not at Walmart. And a lot of our customers were like, some of them were like medical companies, like building software, but there were software companies. And it was interesting because they didn't like if you're marketing someone's products, you want to see their products. And we would go through some of their products, and they were really clunky and hard to use. And it was like, have you ever put these in front of your users? Like, have you ever asked anyone about this? And they're like, no, do people do that? And I'm like, sure, we do. And so that started me on my journey of UX. I didn't know what it was at the time. It was more consulting, but we were asking users to use people's software at the time to make improvements to it. And that kind of set me on that trajectory of doing software consulting while we were building websites. And that was very exciting and fun. And then somebody that was a roommate of someone that was on my team, because I grew a team there too. I had some designers, I had developers that reported to me. And what we did is we had a quality department that like checked on how everything was working and all of that. And one of the guys on my team said, hey, I have a friend that works over in another company. They're looking for someone that does marketing and UX. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I applied for that job and met these guys that this was a startup that had just gotten acquired as a part of that with them. And that was an interesting ride. It was business analytics. And they left that company to start another company that was for notifications. And it was before we had smartphones, so you had just like very limited text that you could send.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
I had many of those.
Yeah, so we were we built a website that would connect to your data, and then if there were trends like outliers and that kind of thing, you could set up business rules, and those business rules would then burst to your phone to let you know that, hey, maybe there's an outlier, you hit the sales goal, whatever it was. This was like revolutionary, really. It was probably a little bit before its time, but that was kind of an exciting moment. Enjoyed working with them. That company got acquired, and then they left that company, and they were still in business analytics, and they were like, hey, we should like disrupt the business analytics industry and go out into the open source community and pull open source products together to make a suite. And so that was Pentaho. And through Pentaho, we built a team that was very
And that was which year?
Oh man, this was probably, let me see, 2004?
Okay.
Yeah, probably 2003, 2004. And so a bit of a fast forward, right? There's a lot going on between then. But started at Pentaho and did marketing and UX for them. Brought on another person who was helping us with UX exclusively. And then we brought on a full sales team, and it was like, okay, what do we... we went from no UI, by the way. This was like, we were unzipping files and stuff like that. It was to think back how far we came with that product. But we did bring on several UX designers, and I was leading that team, and we just attacked the industry. And Hitachi acquired Pentaho after, it was probably right around 9 years, so it was a long ride.
Right.
But it was really interesting to see what open source did to not only the analytics industry, but just industries in general. When you look at what Red Hat has done and Linux and all that kind of thing. But yeah, so then I've since then I have, everywhere that I've worked, I have typically led teams. Sometimes I've been individual contributor as well. All right, yeah. So from Pentaho, I left there and I joined the technology group at Home Depot. I was an individual contributor there, working inside a squad or a sprint team. They really have a mature development group. So their product group, their development group, also the UX team, they all really are tight together, and their stakeholder group also understands UX. They really reach out to the user experience group and the product group in general and ask, how can we accomplish this goal? That's a big step if you ever are working in UX, where they don't come and say, hey, here's the solution. Here's how this needs to be solved. They start asking the questions, and they'll be involved in what that solution will be on that journey of following the techniques that we use in UX. And yeah, it's that was a fun thing. It was up in Atlanta. I thought we might move to Atlanta at one point, and ended up not looking like we were going to move. So I happened to meet our director of UX here at Advent Health. He connected with me on LinkedIn, and I said, hey, your background looks very similar to mine. He didn't do startups, but just some of the things that he did was very similar. And said, why don't we go have a coffee? And through having that coffee, I was able to interview for a position of being a UX manager here at Advent Health. And really, we had a small team when I started, and we grew the team. We've had various sizes of teams because we had brought on contractors when we've had kind of to accelerate work. Those contractors kind of went into squads and helped make things happen. And we've had third-party vendors that we've worked with as well. So it's been kind of a fun, exciting opportunity to work in a lot of different things. But it's also been great seeing what we've done, bringing in designers here in Central Florida. And I say Central Florida, COVID hit. We did used to be on site, and so now Advent Health, the digital group is fully remote.
Fully remote.
Yeah, our floor has been turned into something else, which is nice. It's a good use of the space, but yeah, now we're all remote, and sometimes we get to connect like this, but often we're seeing each other on Teams.
Yeah.
And so it has given us an opportunity to find talent outside of the Central Florida area. Before, when we were hiring and trying to grow a team, an experienced team, it was sometimes a little bit challenging finding local talent that had the years of experience that we needed to work independently inside a squad. And so by opening it up, we found people in South Carolina, people... we have people up in the Washington, D.C. area. Also outside of the country sometimes. They can contract with us, and we've had that throughout the digital group, which is pretty cool. But various levels of skills. We also had someone that was interning with us when I started, and he has since converted to full-time.
Amazing guy.
Yeah, full-time, and he is doing amazing work too. So it's great to see, where we've converted contractors to full-time. Some contractors have come on for short projects and moved
Yeah.
on to something else. So it's been pretty fun growing
Yeah.
the team.
One thing I really love about our company is many companies are adopting to work at home now, but our company adopted the need of the people. If somebody has a genuine need, then company allowed them to be remote, 100% remote. So you have somebody in your team, I had somebody in my team with the justification need. um, we as a company was able to allow them. So it's not that because of pandemic we are forced to do it. In some way we did, but we was people oriented before as well to fit their need. So I love that about the company.
Yeah, we did have the one designer that was on the team when
Right.
I started. She was remote.
Yeah.
And I observed that there were challenges with her being engaged with the team in certain moments. There would be walk up conversations that she would miss. Let's go into a room and whiteboard
Yeah.
something. And I would see that happen. And I was trying to figure out how do we get people to
Yeah.
connect with her. And she was too. We were working on it together. And this changed that.
Right.
She is more connected to the team now than ever, and I find it if you have any level of a distributed team, and if you have like a hybrid team where they're on site, you have to make sure that you're considering those people that aren't there. Even if you get like a group together for like a one-off meeting, thinking about how are you going to communicate with the people
Yeah.
that need to dial in is just important. It just is important.
Right.
So, it's a unique challenge. I think it's not that unique anymore, but
I had my personal experience with that.
yeah,
So I was traveling to India, and there was 1 week where I was working remote from there, and I constantly faced this challenge that people. It's hard to find people, not find people, but hard to connect because they're either in this meeting or that meeting, or when we was in office, we were having this really good chemistry around that anybody can go to anybody and talk and have the conversation. Like you can just walk to a person, and some our environment was in a way that it encouraged collaboration. It encouraged you to just stand up group and in one of the meeting room and you have the conversation. So we were having all that, and I'm other side of the computer, and I cannot get engaged with all those conversations. So I was feeling left out many times in that 1 week. But now, since everybody is other side the computer, I can have more conversation. I can find more people because I feel like I just knock on my screen and then the other person is there. So that was the learning. That was my own self-reflection on how this has changed.
yeah. I think for the better. I know some people struggle with it still, not being able to connect in person. That's meaningful, right? I think that's really a useful thing. I know one thing that I didn't mention is back in the Pentaho days, I was looking around for a UX community, and I found what was at the time called Downtown UX. And
Yeah, you big time there.
yeah,
you
so
big
I
involvement.
connected with those guys and gals. The group there was amazing. Workshops and all of that, and they had a business downtown that was good enough to allow us to use their space in the evenings for meetups, and it was really great. I immediately resonated with those folks, and so I became a co-organizer of Downtown UX, and we had like Ducks Day on a Saturday once a year. So we had 3 of those where people donated money to a local charity, and we had like an all-day event where we had a keynote, and it was a full expo of different things, and very, very cool to be able to make those kind of things happen. We have since rebranded to Downtown Orlando UX to let people know this is an Orlando UX group. Although
I was about to ask.
yeah. Well, we had a meetup on Tuesday. Today's Thursday, and we had people from all over the nation.
Right. So it is open for everyone then.
For sure. Yeah, it's virtual. We do have something called Brew UX, where in the mornings sometimes people will get together for a coffee, or in the evenings maybe they'll meet for a happy hour somewhere, and that's much more of a still talking focused on UX, but and UX colleagues and that kind of thing, peers, but it is a smaller group. It's not doing workshops. There's no planning besides we all show up.
So if anybody want to connect and join that, how should they do this?
Just go on to meetup.com and then look for Downtown Orlando UX, and you can find us there. We're also Downtown Orlando UX is also on LinkedIn, so we direct.
And I will add hyperlink in the show notes.
Cool, that's nice. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Cool. That's a long journey.
Yeah, there's been a lot.
If you have to pick 3 defining moments of this journey, or 3 major roles that you did, which one will be those?
Yeah, so I talk about the opportunity that I had even before I started into marketing, before I graduated. I think some of the opportunities that I had there where that were applied throughout the organization that showed me that as long as you try and work hard and you connect with people and share what your ideas are, that can be meaningful. And it was cool to be a part of something that allowed me to learn that it wasn't like this, in the 80s you would see all these business movies that were like the corporate, environment and all that. And I guess I just felt like you should just talk to the folks that you need to talk to get the job done. And that a lot of times can be intimidating for folks. So that was one. Definitely joining with the startup folks. At AppSource was the name of the company originally, and Arborsoft bought AppSource, and then it became Hyperion Solutions. And connecting with those guys, the founders, the original founders, seeing how they loved what they did. Just like how I looked at what do I want to do with my life? What do I enjoy? Hey, we had our moments of debate. They had their moments of debate because they're running a business and trying to make it work.
Yep.
But all throughout, it was a fun activity and journey. Each time that they grew a company and saw it become successful, and how to make things successful, and being given some of the opportunities there, where it was very, very exciting. Just being a part of startups is a lot of fun. I enjoy that a lot. But then also, I think if I fast forward, of course, the startups, being a part of them, so it's not exactly one moment, being a part of the founding group. I wasn't a founder, by the way, but it's just being a part of what some of that early adoption that when they asked me to be a part of their groups. But then I would say going into the Home Depot group, it is such a large, mature UX group, and seeing how some of the micro teams worked. They didn't all work exactly the same, but they were still building toward the same things and still trying to achieve great things for their customers and associates. I worked on the enterprise group, so the enterprise group was really trying to help the people at Home Depot are called aprons, the people that work there, because they all wear aprons. We're familiar with that. You wear an apron to the main corporate meetings whenever you're at the corporate headquarters, and being a part of that and seeing what they were really trying to accomplish through technology to improve the people in the stores' day-to-day activities and optimize, right? Of course, it comes down to, the time you can save for folks to allow them to get in front of the customer. That was really where it was interesting. One of the questions that someone asked, like, hey, the work we're doing, are we putting people out of jobs because we're like taking systems away and replacing systems? It's like, no, we're trying to allow them to spend more time and better time with the customer. And that is really what UX often represents, is we are the voice of the customer or the user, if you will. So it was great to see a company embracing that in such a dynamic way. It's very cool.
I think maybe that experience, or I'm sure you have other experience as well, but one of the activity that I remember that we had a task to review the entire application, and we had 5 product owner and 5 UX person. I think 5, right?
Yeah.
So for me, Warren and Tom, initially, we just gonna go screen by screen, we review, and we will have the results. And but I think at that point we didn't realize what we are asking. You knew what that mean in terms of execution. So the way you executed it, that you had your team go in the screens, capture all the screen in Figma, then you build an understanding among all 5 people that how they will compare these screen, how they will comment on this screen, and then with product owner, an understanding with product owner how they will go back to these screen, find these comment and convert them into a Jira ticket that can be then prioritized and worked upon, and finally going back and confirming that this work is done. So from the point when we was thinking, yes, the screen may not be looking exactly how they should be, there has been a 6-month, 1-year development, so let's review. But you articulated that, you have it executed in a way that we got the most out of that exercise. So I guess I'm just complimenting you for that, and I'm also acknowledging that you probably have earned that experience from all these jobs, and your own, you added your own.
Yeah, I mean, that was a unique challenge. Just to give everyone who might be listening a little background, we are integrating another EMR into our
Epic system.
Yeah, and part of that integration, we did use a third-party development team to do that work. So we were not, our internal design team, our internal development team wasn't along on that journey. We were kind of on the side helping direct, let's put things here, let's do things here. But that group didn't necessarily embrace Agile the same way. So, because what you just described, it was a challenge that we had to overcome, and we knew that it was coming.
Right.
If you're doing Agile, you would find these things so much faster.
It was more like a waterfall that we
totally
built, and then it was time to go.
Yeah, I just didn't want anyone to be listening going, why do they have this massive review? Right? Like,
so let's spend
it was waterfall. Right.
Let's spend maybe another minute on what we do actually.
Yeah.
So we work in Advent Health. Our job responsibility include many applications, but for last a year, we are very focused on one project, which is adding Epic system into Advent Health apps. So we're responsible for building this Advent Health app, which shows data from Epic, Athena, and Cerner system to patients. So patient can log in and see their health record in this app, and then also schedule an appointment and different other things. So that's what we do. And for last 1 year, we are very focused on incorporating Epic into this application. And that project is going live on March 6th. So there has been so many activities going on, and so going back 2 months ago, we wanted to have a thorough review of each screen that it's aligned to the UX that team has developed, and we are talking about that. So
Yeah.
that was the project, and we had a contractor company, a agency who was helping building that. So even though we had some kind of a scrum there, but ultimately they build all these different section, and then we was reviewing, and we find that this is the time to review and adjust it.
Yeah, and you know, coming up with a solution on how to do that, the main thing was, how do we all work the same?
Right.
And I think how do we all work the same goes into how we have successes in our group in general. If you look at how our teams have all of the agile exercises that we do, all the rituals where we have grooming and planning and all of those things, stand-ups every day. Our teams work in a way that we're familiar with. Now, those teams are self-organized, so they might have some nuances, but we all use a tracking tool. We don't use our own tracking tools. We're all in the same system. Right. We all try to write stories. They all bubble up into an epic. All of that is important. And if you look at like this project that you've described, for us all to work the same made it effective so that we could execute on that as quickly as we could. And you could very quickly see where the challenges were, where they weren't, what had been checked, what hadn't been checked yet. If we had tried to create stories for that whole thing, we created some very high level, but we did not like go down in the depths because it would have just taken too long for us to get it all done. But it was when you look back at it, it was really quite an accomplishment that like I think you can be proud that we were able to understand some of the challenges that we had before we got to the point that we're at right now, where we're about to roll this thing out. So trying to reduce the surprises, if you will.
So around that, we talk a lot about UX and some of the terminology. I wanted to ask you, what is the difference between UX, graphic designer, researcher, and if there is any other term? So for the audience, what are they same? Are they different? What it is?
No, they're quite different. It's kind of interesting too, and I think this has changed a lot over the past like 5 years. A web designer, you didn't say web designer, but a web designer is not a UX designer. They are different. And you've heard there are different terms: UX designer, product designer,
graphic designer.
Graphic designer is different though, so I'm really sticking into the bubble of user experience, because there's UI and UX, and sometimes there's a designer.
Well, user experience is another key term that some people understand, some don't understand.
Yeah, so the differences between a graphic designer is typically they're developing a layout that is like a document of some sort, or a visual element that's going to be used inside either a printed document or a UI element, right? It could be web, it could be software, but typically they're not thinking. They might be thinking about a call to action, like if they're laying out like an advertisement or even possibly a book, like you look at the way that book needs to flow and that kind of thing. You're getting into a little bit of information architecture, but when you get into the UX field, you're looking at the interactions. How is someone going to go through this? And I often describe it as UX is chess. So you're not just looking at the next move. If you're a good chess player, you're looking 5 or 6 moves ahead. You're thinking, what could this person do? What might they decide to do if they do this? How do we allow them to do that thing that they want to do? So you really have to think ahead, look at not just the screen in front of you. That's the challenge when like a PO comes to you and says, a product owner comes to you and says, hey, we need a button right here. What's the button do? Why does someone want to interact with that button? What should we do? Should it even be a button? Do they expect it to be a button? So it's more, what is the problem we're trying to solve? So when someone comes to you and says, let's put a button or a call to action on the screen right here, it's like, well, what are we trying to accomplish? Because maybe we don't even need them to take an action. We can be proactive with that user and make their experience better by not requiring them to even do anything, right? And we can just let them know that it's something that can happen. And you go into like a graphic designer, and hey, I don't want to represent the graphic design community fully, so but often they're developing assets that will be included in something, or it will be a all-encompassing piece of material or content.
So a UX designer is thinking about how a user will interact with this asset, this design that he's making. So two part of the question, I guess, where do they get this knowledge? How do they know what user will do?
Well, we ask them. We don't ask them what the answer is, to be clear. You asked also about a researcher. So
right. That was my second part of the question.
Yeah. So some UX folks do research as well. Some teams have an additional person that is doing research with the team to help facilitate, pull it all together. It's challenging to do research that you're not leading or bias and that kind of thing. So if you're doing research, you're asking the user, how is this? Now, how did you get to a solution? There are techniques, UX techniques, if you look up Double Diamond, where you're going through and you're like ideating through a process, you're doing discovery, and then you're converging on that discovery that you've done, and then you come up with a solution that will work, but then you do the research to find out, hey, is this really going to do what the user needs? So there are processes that you can learn through HCI courses, or you can also take boot camps. There are boot camps out there now that people can do. There's tons of information on the internet too. Google offers a course, so you can get
some knowledge and some experience, and then some user research.
Yeah. So we have people on our team that we have people on our team that were graphic artists. The intern that converted into a UX designer, he was a graphic artist. As he interned with us, he was doing a UX internship with us. So he learned about the activities as he went, and kind of the Advent Health way of approaching things. Each team's going to do UX slightly different. But we have someone else on our team that went to a boot camp. She transitioned careers from being a retail manager to UX. Someone else focused their career on UX throughout, and so you'll find diversity within our groups and throughout the UX community. One of the things that you'll find though with UXers is that they're often very open to share what their journey has been, and what they do day to day and that kind of stuff, which is really awesome. It's sometimes hard in certain industries to even understand how you can break into it or that kind of thing. I think, as with any job, probably one of the biggest challenges right now is just that that entry level role is hard to find if you're trying to, get your foot in
I was about to come to that
Yeah.
part as we talk about this, right? What's the difference between these? I wanted to ask you if somebody want to start thinking about a career in this field as a UX designer or as a UX researcher or like somebody in your team. How does that look like? Is it a course that they should do? Is it an internship? It is, how should somebody start? And that could be somebody who is in college right now, or it could be somebody who is in a different type of role today but want to transition into this role.
Yeah. Find out if you like it, right? Like, is this really what you want to do? I've talked to a few folks that like, hey, I want to do UX.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, what is it that you like about this?
Mm-hmm.
It seems fun. Right? Like, this is work. This is real work. It's got its ups and downs. I love it. I love what I do. I love what our team does. I love what our industry does. I really do. But it can be fun. Any job can be fun if it's something that you love. So there's work to be done. And I think the first step is like, how connected. I always ask people, why do you want to do this? And find out like, what have they done to learn about it? Do they get out there in the community and start like downtown Orlando UX? There are other UX meetups out there across the nation. That's a great way to start like talking to people in the industry and asking them what is their day-to-day like. Like I said a minute ago.
What a day look like for them?
Yeah, like I said though, people in our space like to share what they do if we have time. But really, it starts with like, how much does this mean to you? And then where do you want to educate yourself? I've had someone that I spoke to that they recently graduated from college and kind of had a good idea in communications what they wanted to do, but really narrowed in that kind of nearing the end of their college career on UX. But they didn't take any like very specific courses, and now that person is taking like a Google certification to try to go through that and learning more about the techniques of UX and how to apply them, and UX research as well. So those are ways. Boot camps can be expensive, so I would definitely like ask people on groups. There's mentors out there that can tell you, oh, this one might be effective for you. Maybe you can get with someone. You can even go out and just do some UX, right? Just do it,
Right.
Download some. Figma's an amazing tool. It's free, so you can try it out, do some design, watch videos on how to do that. That's a design aspect of UX. Some people really like to do the research piece of it and going out and doing user interviews with people and looking at what a script looks like and that kind of thing, and find out like, is this for me? It can almost be saddening knowing that people like spent a lot of money and then that's not the thing they want to do. Often our skills translate to other aspects of technology or even just anything, but at the end of the day, like making sure that this is the kind of thing that you want to do, and then finding some resources, which I have some links for resources that I can share with you too, that I really like. ADP List, they have like mentorship program that you can sign up for and choose that kind of thing. It's focused on user experience.
What's ADP List?
It's a ADP List, adplist.com, and it is a mentorship program.
Okay.
It's more of like a website just to connect you with people.
Okay. Is it paid?
No, it's free. Yeah, so people are volunteering their time to be mentors.
Oh, nice.
And then also you can select from the mentor pool that you get kind of lined up with.
Okay.
So it's pretty neat.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Meetups, you can always talk to people there. It's a little bit harder in a virtual space because often the meetups aren't structured in a way for you to just have a conversation with someone.
Right.
So you have to, when someone puts their LinkedIn up there, grab it, connect with them on LinkedIn, talk to them. Look, I met our director of UX,
And you got a job
I got
out
a
of
job
it.
out of it. Yeah. And that was totally unintentional, but it just was something that happened, and a LinkedIn connection, you never know what it could mean. Those are some ways.
No, this is the great list. So
I don't want to tell somebody to go get an HCI degree right at it.
have found in last 1 month that Twitter is an amazing tool to connect with people, real people.
Oh, yeah.
You can DM them. So you can join a space. There are a space for different topic. I'm sure there are a space for
sure.
UX.
Yeah.
I found a lot of space around writers, writing, and I never had these many connection that I have now with other writers who are doing the same type of thing.
I have found like Slack boards are amazing.
Yeah, there are more one-to-one conversation there, right?
Yeah, and they're also
A small
not,
community.
yeah. It's a small community. It's you signed up for a space. You're asking. I don't know. I just don't see people being quite so negative, and they're moderated. There's Discord and Slack groups. Those are often moderated by experts in the field, and they will contact someone that is like not being, it's okay to give constructive criticism, right? That's all right, but like when you have to bash people publicly, I don't.
I reach out to Wes to help me with my one-on-one and team meeting because Wes is so good and organized with that. His director, Tim Putt, my good friend, has mentioned a couple of times that since Wes has joined his team, he doesn't have much to do because Wes take care of everything. And just to add, Wes is leaving us to go back to Home Depot from where he came. So tomorrow his last day. So I got an opportunity before he leave us for this interview.
And by the way, I would have been happy to have done this after. Yes, I am leaving Advent Health. Tomorrow's my last day. It's been a great group. We've done amazing things. I'm going to miss the team, the digital group, the broader team. We've really branched out and been able to work closely with folks in marketing, and I have enjoyed that a lot, and other executives in the company. But I will also miss the direct team, the UX team that we have built together, and with Tim, and our team has been really something and special.
How do you find your dreams? What you probably have decided 5 years ago and you achieved, and what you may be deciding now. How do you kind of even figure out what you want to do?
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about it at the beginning, and it wasn't about money. When I said, "Oh, if you have $10 million, what would you do?" Right. It wasn't cool. I'm going to do something to make $10 million, and then I'll stop. It was like, what would make me happy? What will I enjoy? So I try to find things. If I find things like we talked about Twitter or if I find things that don't bring me joy, I try to move away from that. That doesn't mean that I give up or quit on something that's a challenge that I need to do. It just means that I really want to, this life, you only have so many moments, and look at COVID, what it has taught. If it's taught us anything, it should be, be thankful that you can get out and do things and interact with people and experience life in different ways, even if it's virtually. I think we should be thankful for technology that we've had that. So to me, I look for things that will bring me joy or happiness, something that I can be proud of. Those are ways that I kind of look at that. And it was interesting right before COVID, one of the goals that I had, and you're helping with this in a way, one of the goals that I had was I really wanted Central Florida communities or businesses, not communities, but to better understand leaders in business, to better understand what this field is of UX.
I will cut that as a clip, and I will post it separately. Just that, what is this?
Yeah, so I think that like there are such opportunities for businesses to optimize what they're doing, and it's not just about like logistics and that kind of stuff. User experience can help businesses be more profitable, connect more with their consumers or customers. It can do so much that I don't know if that is clear to a lot of businesses, that they aren't, like you asked me, how do you break into this field? I love what's happened with UX. It's really grown a lot. I think there's a lot more opportunity, and there are businesses that can benefit from what we do, and I'd love to share that. And that's part of me doing Do UX. I like the group that we have there. I like attending other meetups where that sense of community is there, and being a part of something that is bigger than myself is really cool. And that can happen, like Advent Health, we talked about community there. You look at Home Depot, and Home Depot has a community of talented folks that you can surround yourself with. Those are all ways that I kind of help make decisions. Now when I do that, I pro-con things out and weigh how much time is it going to take. If you can look up like what's a 2x2, and you can put what the effort and value will be.
2x2.
A 2x2, yeah. So basically draw a plus, and then you put all of your items. It's a way of prioritizing and deciding what you should work on. So put all of your items kind of in the middle of the circle and stack them. And you stack them. You can do it a couple different ways, but you can stack them up by the value that you're going to bring. Or you could stack them by the difficulty. How hard is this? This is going to be easy, and you go down, down, down to hard. And then you start moving them left and right on the value. And if it's not very valuable and it's really hard, so it's at the top of that plus, you probably shouldn't do it. Right? Like this is going to take us a lot of time to do. It's going to cost us a lot, or it's not going to add a lot of value to someone. Why do we do it? When you put it on the other side and it adds a lot of value and it's going to be really easy, those are like the quick wins that you should pick. And then you start having the challenge of like, as you get closer to the center, which of these things should we do next? Because they're going to help our customer, they're going to help us, and you can do that personally too, right? You can use that as a method of saying, okay, I've got all these chores to do. Which ones can I do quick? What you can do with chores, you can do it with anything.
Yeah. You said joy and fulfillment, right? You try to identify what will give you joy and fulfillment. And I'm going to ask a follow-up question on that. How do you find what gives you joy and fulfillment? How do you recognize it?
Yeah, sometimes it's a journey, right? Like, you don't know immediately. A lot of times it can be something that you had a moment in your life, right? Like, but sometimes you have to try it and see. Yeah. Right? Like, some people, they hear me talk about running and think, oh my goodness, I would never do that, right? Like, and I was not a runner until I needed to lose some weight. And then I got on a elliptical because running was too hard. I just thought running was free. Well, let's try it. It was really hard. Got on an elliptical and could do a lot. And then went out for a run one evening, and it was a full moon. And I think I went like 6 miles. It was like incredible. I was like, wow, this was amazing. And I wanted to go more, right? And that was a moment of like, wow, this was really great. it's kind of like having a puppy, the excitement that you see in the puppy that can bring to you. And that goes back to like leadership in some ways, where you see the successes of the team around you and the excitement that they have around those successes can be really, really rewarding. And I mean, how do you recognize that moment? Maybe you have to write them down, I suppose, but I don't. I just kind of take it in and go, yeah, this is good times.
That was a great moment when you were describing that moonlight and that's what I like to capture.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, man.
So once you identify a goal, what is your goal setting and execution method?
Once I know what the goal is, then depending on, if it's work related or
personal,
something personal, right? Then I kind of work out what it takes. I probably learned this from my dad, right? My dad trying to get me to mow the lawn. Like, hey son, what tools would it take to mow the lawn? Right? He was basically telling me to go mow the lawn, but I guess we need the edger and we need the lawnmower. We need to get some gas. We need a trash bag so we can go around and clean up the yard for any debris before we get started. All of those things, you start just kind of compiling either a mental list or writing it down. Like when we talk about running, that doesn't just happen, right? Like exercise, you have a plan. If you want to put fitness into place to be meaningful in your life, you come up with a plan. I'm going to work out on these days. You can deviate from it a little bit, but as soon as you start like not doing it, it's a lot harder to get back to it. Running, if you're going to train for a 5K, there are apps out there for couch to 5K. That's because you can't just go do a 5K right out of the...
I've used that
for
some time.
You can, but you're probably going to hurt. You're not going to enjoy it, and you might even hurt yourself.
No, I use that couch to 5K.
Yeah. And it's the same thing for a half marathon. There are half marathon plans out there that like you can choose. And I don't just have it printed and look at it. I enter it into the app, right? Like Garmin has like a training app, and I'll add it into there and I'll use it as my reminder. And accountability is really important, right? Like, and I mean, I love the analytics around some of that stuff too. So it's fun to see how you progress throughout your training plan, because you're like, I remember, Nadine. I started running with her. She was going to a local run club, and we went on a run, and she's like, I don't know how you guys are doing these like 5 miles. Like 5K was her limit, and she was just getting into it. She still does rock climbing.
She got me into biking.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, she's very fitness oriented, but running was not her thing. This, like 2 weeks ago, O-Town Blazers had a trail like their 1 year anniversary, and she went on that, like it was a 7-mile run. They've done 11-mile runs, and she's doing that. She's like, yeah, you get out on the trails, these folks push you. But that didn't happen. Like, she was saying, how can you even get to 5 miles? And then I talked to her, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and she's like, oh yeah, you should come out. We're going to Black Bear, and we're going to do a 7-mile loop. And I'm like, look at you, 7 miles. And she's like,
Black Bear loop. And it's not plain. It's very up and down.
Yeah, it's very technical. There's routes.
Yeah.
It's right along the riverfront, so you don't want to fall.
Me and my wife and there is a family. We go at least once a month on that for walk. Yeah. Not to run.
Well, I mean, whatever. It's 7 miles. That's what the loop is, and you can see wild boar out there, and maybe an alligator or a snake or something. It's kind of
we've seen wild boar. We've seen some other animal, but fortunately not
birds as well. Right? We see a lot of cool birds, but yeah, that's how you do it. You figure out how you get there. And it isn't, like even you talk about how do we find a job. You start looking at places that list jobs. Like I talked about Slack. Many Slack channels or teams have a jobs channel. So many jobs are posted out there. Find one that's related to the career.
How do you find these Slack channels?
Ask. Also, I socialize them. I will cross post job postings sometimes to multiple. There's 4 that I regularly go to. One of them is on research. One of them is in South Florida on South Florida UX and design. Or Orlando has one. Design Orlando. Slack is there, and also IXDA Atlanta. So IXDA is like a national, it's even a global group.
Yeah, this person is more on the data analytics side.
Yeah.
So I was just checking.
Gotta be one.
Yeah.
Usually,
There is no directory there, right? It's you go through the people.
No.
Because otherwise anybody will join.
Exactly. Yeah. I would say Twitter could probably be your friend if you find a community there, and then Google. Just Google.
Yeah.
Like if you look up through Google and just say Orlando Designer Slack, you'll find us.
So Wes, how do you manage your time? You have a lot of responsibilities. You have a team plus your own initiative, and I'm sure you have your personal related items. So how do you manage your day?
Well, one of the things that, and I know because I'm going to be changing jobs, this is not going to be the way it is, but in the prior job that I had, in the current job here at Advent Health, in other jobs, everything is unique. It's one of the exciting things about doing UX or technology in general. I'm sure your day has unique challenges to it, that like the unexpected comes up and you have to respond to that, and being prepared for that is important. But then also, like, I think of my week has all of these moments of unplanned work that you can't necessarily plan for, but you do. So I know exactly what my week is going to be every week. My calendar is set up. I have discipline around my calendar. When we have one-on-ones, they're important. I do not skip the one-on-ones that I have with the team members. If I do, we move it. We're going to have it. It's important. It's important for them, for the folks on the team. It's important for me to connect and understand where they're at and how they're feeling and how the work's going. So those are all moments. If we have a recurring meeting, it's there on the calendar, and I know to expect it. I don't know necessarily what's going to happen in that meeting. We have an agenda. We loosely cover it, but questions are going to come up, and we'll talk about that and focus. A lot of times it'll be a self-organized discovery too. Okay, let's kind of talk about these things. Which one do you guys want to drill into today? Because we can't cover all of this. Like, there's just too much. Let's drill into certain areas that the team can benefit from. So to me, like, I do think the meeting discipline is important. I don't block my calendar for like personal time, and maybe I just have it in a way that like I create those moments with people that like I don't have to block off an entire day or segments of my day in order to have time for me to accomplish the things I need to do. Mainly because I do think that I create that opportunity to meet with the folks that are important to the work that we're trying to get done throughout the week. And that just comes down, I think it comes down to meeting discipline, and also, like, we talked a little bit about prioritization, but setting like agendas and expectations for what those are. Early on, when folks on the team would like have a meeting about, say, our design system or something, we would show up and maybe nothing would be ready to be talked about. It's like, okay, so let's reel this in. If we're going to have this meeting, we should have it for a reason, especially if it's on the calendar every week. I don't want people to just sit there and go, what they'll do is they'll stop coming, right? You won't come to a meeting that's not needed.
Right.
Let's get rid of it. Let's not have it on our time. But if it is something like around a design system that's really important, let's make those times meaningful to the people that are coming and let them know that it's going, hey, this week we're going to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps people kind of have that expectation, helps them go, I want to come to that, right? That's something that I think I need to come to, or maybe I don't. Maybe I don't need to go to this one. And that's okay, right? Like,
Great.
yeah.
So in the time management, that I think we cover prioritization. Yeah. Do you make a list of things that you will be doing today, other than the calendar? Do you have your own personal list?
I do. I use Trello. yeah. I use Trello. It's funny. I met with Cher, who you know. She's someone that we work with. She's a PO on our team, and she had a Trello board, and I met with her. I said, "Hey, like, what is your Trello board like?" And I showed her mine, and I said, "I'm really trying to figure out how to do it." And she's like, "Oh yeah, I used to do it that way." Right? And she goes, well, if I'm being on it, we kind of talked about like how do we keep and maintain our list. Sometimes I use OneNote. Like we have like recurring meetings. A lot of times we'll use OneNote and go through and check off.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So we do that. But I personally use Trello for different things, but I'll create a new board that's like specific to like one of them is about staff and one-on-ones, right? And so each person, I can keep like notes on those discussions
in OneNote,
that we have. I don't do it in OneNote. I do it in a Trello board.
Oh, go.
Yeah. I don't know why I find that more like it just feels better to me, and I can move it into a done column, and to me, Trello has been good for that, but you could use OneNote. I just found myself not maintaining the OneNote the same way that I do the Trello.
Yeah. For my case, I used to use OneNote, and then I moved to Workflowy. It's a tool,
I saw exactly
but I use it as the log of my day, not more like a planning, but log of my day. And then for personal project like YouTube, writing, and all, I'm using Asana.
Okay.
Not Jira.
Yeah.
I found that Asana is more user friendly, especially as I have somebody who is assisting me with this work. So between the two, it worked out well.
Yeah.
There's so many tools.
Trello
Whichever.
I
use Trello too.
I've encouraged my kids to use Trello too. I said, hey, as you're keeping track of things, try to use that. You can move things into a done and get rid of it, and it's gone. You know, and I like the nature of the way that workflow works. The swim lanes are really effective, and if you use Agile, you're used to the swim lanes and that kind of thing. So to me, it helps translate better than just a list that you check off the list. You look for the little check mark, but instead it's a filled up
done column,
bucket,
right? Process and done, in progress and done.
Yeah, it's like when we were creating our design system, you might have seen it in a couple of meetings that how did we communicate how far we've come on each platform? And I had glasses that were filling up with water, right? And each item that we had to get done, that would become a fill line that you could fill up, and like filling the bucket and filling up the thing, just it creates a visual experience for people that is different than just this long list of stuff. So
So is there a question that I did not ask but you want to answer?
I guess what the team dynamic is that we have with our UX team here at Admin Health. It's fun. I know I talked a little bit about the group and how talented they are and that kind of thing and how we all work together, but it's also we don't take each other too seriously. When the moments of seriousness are there, it's time to get the work done. We're in it, but we have this like wonderful moment that I hope I can carry over into future jobs. Is Mondays, like we talked a little bit about schedule. Mondays is how was your weekend? We have a time block set aside to just pull up pictures from our phone or put them on our computer and share them with each other. Especially in this like remote world where we aren't getting the water cooler talk and that kind of thing. This is a time to know what kind of things are going on in someone's life. And you get to see their family or their pets or the trip they made to Disney World or whatever. And so that's fun. But also, like, man, I love throwing, like, a funny background on a Teams call. I think you've seen the You're Amazing one that I have. It's like, looks like The Incredibles, but it's You're Amazing. And using the technology in a way that allows us to still enjoy the things we do. I think there was one time like
you started a water cooler chat.
Yeah,
when pandemic just started and we all started working at home, you started a meeting that's every day, I believe, and 10 minutes water cooler. That was named water cooler.
It was like a 10 or 15 minute, and you could join it or not, and you could see, because if you have these things scheduled, you could see who's in them.
Yeah.
So you could be like, I want to jump in there because that person's there and talk about movies. And we had different topics so that you could jump into the water cooler that you wanted to talk about. Like maybe it was what you're reading, video games. I think was one of the ones. So but using that as a way to like just really connect with folks, but also just having fun, right? Like one of my backgrounds, I think I took a screenshot of my office and then I put like a ghost like, and I put it up so it looked like it was my office, but there was a little ghost standing behind me, right? Like, what is that behind you? And those kind of things.
I would have changed Timput background. He's using the exact same background for more than a year.
Yeah, he's using the office.
Yeah, right? I hate it.
He does that.
I mean, you change every. I like change.
Yeah, it's all right. His office, like I was on a call with him yesterday, and his at-home office, he does have a wonderful picture of his family and his diploma and his art supplies. So you do get a little bit of like connection to things that he likes, and I love that too.
So you like about the chemistry and team synergy.
Yeah. Just awesome. Don't take it too seriously, but there are moments of seriousness for sure. Yeah.
Is there any question for me?
I mean, I guess the thing that, like, what were you hoping to get from this conversation?
What I try to grab or extract from all the interview is to your career journey, and it can help the people who are starting or already in the middle of there, and they're trying to see what 5 and 10 years look like. So the most important thing that I try to find is how you found what's the next thing for you, right? And that's the part that I was facing challenge with, that I knew certain path that I have to achieve, but after that I wasn't sure where I want to go. For example, last 3 years I've been thinking about what I want to do next, because should I commit myself for next 10 years to be in a director or similar type positions, right? One of my dream was to join a startup and take a leadership role there and help them with my experience. So all those require some next 10-year commitment, and what I figure that for me is something like this, where I'm part-time in a company or part-time in that startup, but I'm also doing a couple of other part-time things. So I decided I will not be a full-time person in next few years.
So you'll get to be on it.
Nice. I take up space right now.
You might have to edit 2 videos together.